there is an overall trend throughout the news media of trying to play down and render as boring as possible news stories that cut against the favored narrative. So any news story about black on non-black crime gets played down and is presented as undramatic and uninteresting as possible. Any story about media bias furthering a left-wing narrative gets played down and is presented as boring as possible. Stories about crimes committed by legal and illegal immigrants get played down and presented as boring as possible. Media critics of limited imagination condemn the press for not reporting what they believe it should assume. All these news outlets that drew fury for that early reporting quickly updated their stories. There's a reason that the press calls murderers suspected or alleged murderers before they've been tried and convicted. Critics have complained that some outlets refrain from immediately deeming the shooting an assassination attempt. But as NBC's Kelly O'Donnell explained, right, she's the head of the White House press corps, our reporting guidelines require that we do not use that term until law enforcement describes it as an assassination attempt, if and when the investigation supports that designation. It is a measured approach for accuracy. So if a bureaucracy declares it an assassination attempt, all right, law enforcement bureaucracy comes along and declares it an assassination attempt, right, then we know it's an assassination attempt. Only then do we use that language. When Steve Scalise, all right, who's the #2 Republican in the House of Representatives, was shot up when a Bernie Sanders supporter came, the #2 Republican, to a Republican softball game and tried to kill as many Republicans as possible. How did the FBI report on that? All right, they said, oh, this was suicide by cop, right? They did not want to mention that this was terrorism. They wanted to render the slaughter as boring as possible. Yeah, the passive voice is, if not always, frequently an attempt to evade responsibility. So many fascinating things about the story that just on face value, it looks like this was a sanctioned attempt to assassinate the president of the future president, past president of the United States, with the cooperation of the Biden administration, right? The Biden administration, all right, they are in charge of the Secret Service, right? The Biden administration assigned particular Secret Service, right? The Secret Service is under the Department of Homeland Security, right? The Biden administration appoints the top people to that position. The Biden administration chose the head of the Secret Service, according to the New York Post, because Jill Biden liked her.